Pleasure and thank you for joining us on the Coffee Court, where we ask critical questions. And this time round, we'll be digesting matters of the import duty tax. And I'm joined by the Executive Director of CS Bag, Mr. Julius Mukunda. Idi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
You have been silent on this tax.
No, we are never silent. We are never silent. We worked hard to ensure that there are no new taxes being introduced, and we were able to achieve that. And I think that is a very good move on the part of the government to know that we are just a recovering economy, and as such, bringing new taxes is going to cripple us as businesses, especially small and medium enterprises.
There were no new taxes, yes, but several amendments.
No, the amendments were majorly intended to streamline the administration of taxes. That was the major one. But it does not mean that the old taxes were repealed. They still remain on the books. That's why, for example, the internet tax, it is still there. It's not good, but it's a good one, but it's still there. The mobile money tax we were fighting for, it is still there. So despite not bringing new taxes, we have those old taxes that are still really affecting business recoveries in this country.
Okay. Let's majorly talk about the import duty tax. What is this tax all about?
Import duty is a tax measured on any imports that we bring into the country. But of course, it has different categories on how much each commodity is taxed. And I think we've been talking about the taxes on clothes, isn't it? That are being imported. And 23% I think is still on the higher part. But you see, we just need to understand this, that any tax imposed on any good and services increases its cost of production.
Okay.
That's you need to understand that. Taxes are levied or are applied for different reasons. We have what we call sin taxes. Taxes on tobacco, for example. They are exorbitantly so high for purposes of discouraging you from utilizing that particular tax. Taxes on bets, they are even more than 100%. On betting, simply they are trying to discourage you from going for that vice, because it is a vice, it's a bad vice. So, but there are also taxes that are put to encourage local production. For example, you try to protect what is being done here. And I think this is about the clothing industry. So when the government, for example, puts a 23% on taxes on the imports on clothes, for example, fabrics, the argument it is bringing then and now is that you want to encourage local production. It is a perfect idea. The biggest challenge is, when do you want to start it? Is that you should not hike the cost of a particular good to encourage the production of one which is not available already. You're going to cause shortage.
You seem to be suggesting that it's been in existence. Is that the fact?
Yes, it has been there since last year. It has been there since last year. But I think for me is the objective of that particular tax is what needs to be evaluated. Yes, you want to encourage local production, which is very good. But what have you done? Because local production just can't come on its own. As government, you must put in place mechanism, facilities, incentives to encourage local production. So if, for example, you are saying we are going to make it more expensive to import fabrics, because fabrics are the ones that turn into the shirt, the trouser that we all put on, and that you want your local manufacturers to start doing the same, you must address the following. Number one, must make sure that there is production of that. So are we producing enough cotton to turn that cotton into fabric, and that fabric can turn into shirts and shoes and shirts and dresses and the things we use in our daily lives? That's number one. Number two is the quality of what we are producing. The quality, of course, is that there are people who want premium type. Are we able to produce that? But that shouldn't be a problem, because as you start moving up the ladders on the value chain, you can actually enhance your quality. But for me, I think I want to first see how much government is investing in cotton production. That's number one. Number two, how much government is investing in spinning mills, because cotton can't just be used cotton. It must be turned into a product. You add value to it and turn it into cloth. Do we have enough spinning machines in this country, or spinning that can be able to turn cotton into cloth? And then from there, do we have enough tailors to be able to tailor for us the shirts and the trousers and the dresses that our ordinary people need? Once you don't have that strategy fully done in place, then you are just going to make it expensive for your citizens to buy clothes, because putting on a cloth is you can't go in the public naked. You have no choice about it. You must put it on.
So who is right, who is wrong in these circumstances?
So in these circumstances is how government is applying the tax at a time when we are not producing enough cotton. Things must go hand in hand. And this is not about the chicken and the egg. No, we know what we're supposed to do. You know that you need cotton fast, high yields of cotton production, high effective spinning machines, and very good tailors turn your cloth into what you are going to put on. Somebody will tell you, we have enough tailors in Chukwu. The same thing they told us about welders. When they said we need welders, they say, we have enough welders in Chisenyi. But take them to go and weld our oil and gas engineering machines. They found that nobody could do that because none of them understood what welding is all about. Nobody even going to school to do that. They learned on the job. So sometimes that as a government we need to get prepared. So my view really is that this kind of tax would have delayed until we have enough cotton production and spinning machines that are able to fill the gaps if we increase the tax. Because the moment you increase the tax, less goods are likely to come. And those that come definitely come at a time.
But if we're to procrastinate this tax, then policies of Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, maybe will never come to reality. If that was the fact.
You see things don't just happen. You don't say, I want to buy Uganda, build Uganda, and then it happens automatically. It doesn't come. You put in place mechanism on ensuring that the local production increases. If you want, for example, to say we are going to stop the importation of maize flour, so that you can be able to encourage your local producers to turn maize into maize flour. First, you make sure that and that's what they did. Make sure that there is electricity across the country. There are maize mills, and also farmers are producing maize. It is easy. So there, if you say stop, you are encouraging farmers so that people can be able to have more maize produced locally and done. So it is the approach, it is the implementation methodology. You can have the right idea. If you implement it wrongly, you won't get the results.
So if you are in charge, maybe as you are Minister of Finance, what approach would you use?
I think my first approach is to produce more cotton. That is the basic. Because even if we're not going to utilize all the cotton we have, we can even export it even in a raw material. But produce cotton. And this happened when Coffee Development Authority had the capacity to buy cotton, to set the price for cotton. Farmers in northern Uganda, Padero for example, were able to produce cotton. For 2 consecutive seasons, cotton production was going up. But the moment they stopped because they lacked funding to buy that cotton, every farmer in the region stopped producing cotton. So you must first incentivize the production of a crop, of a raw material. Once the raw material is available, then you can bring slump taxes on the importation of that raw material, and this raw material can be turned into a product. You add value to it. So you can't say you are slumping a tax and yet you don't have the raw material. You create a shortage. And when you create a shortage, citizens get distressed. And distressed in the citizenship means that businesses are going not to grow at the rate that you want.
Are you seeming to suggest that we don't have all the raw materials needed to have this done?
The cotton we have, it's not enough. If we stop the production, if we stop the importation of clothes in this country, we cannot be able to provide clothing in this country. We don't. It's not enough. So we need to invest more into that. We have AGOA. We had AGOA. Remember the AGOA package we have, the AGOA Act that was enacted by the Americans to provide us with a free market into the Americans by providing especially like fabrics. We could not fulfill all that. We couldn't, simply because we didn't have enough cotton. We didn't have enough spinning mills. We could not fulfill that particular market. So what has changed then and now? Nothing. So to be able to occupy a market, you strategize and invest in it. You just don't wake up in the morning and say, if we are going to stop the production, the importation of fabrics will automatically be able to be produced into this country. That is wrong economics.
But aren't we in one way or the other trying to create Uganda as a dumping ground? Remember when the president was initiating the policy of Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, he was literally trying to fight issues of bringing in materials into the country, preventing Uganda becoming a dumping situation.
You see, you need to understand when you say boo-boo, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, basically you are saying that there are products in Uganda that we are supposed to use.
That's very true.
That's very true. There are products in Uganda that we can support to be able to replace the foreign ones. And let me give an example. If, for example, you say Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, and you say prisons produces nice furniture, why should you then buy Chinese furniture? If you go along Zambia road, people are producing furniture. Why can't the government buy that particular furniture and use it in their rooms? Now, does that mean that you should stop people from importing the premium furniture that they might want to require? For example, you can't. You put a price on it, it becomes a bit more expensive to encourage them to use the furniture that is available in Uganda.
That is what government is trying to do. Idi.
Now, that is important. Why? Because we have furniture production in Uganda. Timber can be made here, turned into furniture, which means that by applying an import duty on importation of furniture in Uganda, and people are likely to say we can't buy it because it's expensive, already there is an alternative internally. That is a correct policy. You are not dumping furniture in Uganda, you are using your own. Had it been that we don't have enough and you ban it, you are creating social shortage and scarcity to the extent that even the furniture in this country, people won't be able to afford it. So it is a question of balancing. At what point do you incentivize your local industries, and at what point do you protect them to ensure that Uganda is not a dumping ground of cheap products, but your own can actually grow?
So where did government lose the point?
It lost the point because we are stopping the importation, we are making the importation of fabric very expensive when we don't have enough cotton, spinning mills, and fabrics which are locally made in this country. We don't. And as such, we are going to make clothing industry very expensive for an ordinary person to afford. Because once you do that, you are creating a problem, and yet we can't buy them. So this is a moment of balancing. And if you are a Minister of Finance, Minister of Trade, Minister of Agriculture, you need to sit on the table and ask agriculture, how long does it take you to produce enough cotton to address the internal market? From there, then the Minister of Trade would be in a position of how can you able to make sure that our cotton is sold, our fabric is sold. Minister of Finance then comes in to say, it is at this moment when we have enough into the country that we are going to apply the tax of this particular measure to encourage local production.
But hasn't this become a burden, Ed? You have always told us when you see a crowd of people lamenting over a particular situation, it means it's negatively impacting them.
Yes.
Hasn't this become a burden?
It is a burden because now, if a shirt which was going to cost 100,000, it's going to cost 120,000. It is a burden because it is already in a situation where the cost of doing business is extremely very high. Fuel, which was 3,000 at the beginning of the year, it's now 6,500. It's even going to 7,000. So when you add all that together, it makes the cost of doing business extremely very high. So you needed to balance that and see what can you do as a country, because the tax is basically to discourage, to encourage local consumption of locally produced fabrics, but also encourage local consumption of locally produced goods. But they are not enough. That's a challenge. They are not enough. It's like people please, we want you to consume only the rice that is produced in Uganda, but is it enough, or people are likely to go hungry? So I think as a government, that is something that is needed. If you want to apply, to use tax as an incentive to encourage local production, at what point do you do it?
But must we continue in error simply because we don't have the capacity to produce as a country? Must we continue making mistakes as a nation, as a country?
So as a country, I think one of the biggest challenges we face is our implementation. We don't have an implementation strategy. And I will give you an example. For example, is that you look at, we have been talking about palm oil that has increased the price of soap. The government for the last 10 years had a vegetable development project, vegetable development oil project, for purposes of increasing oil production in the country for the last 10 years. We can only talk about Karanga only. And yet we had more than 10 districts that were supposed to start producing oil seeds. And we can't see it. And education tells you that our implementation strategy was extremely wrong. Because by now, we would not be suffering for cooking oil or oil for the production of soap. So I think we are very good at paper. We have brilliant ideas. We have the money to do that, by the way. But we get it extremely wrong at implementation. Why? Because corruption sets in, overpricing of projects, and also we don't have the capacity sometimes to implement some of these projects.
But how have other countries dealt with such situations?
They have the countries where we can learn from are countries like, for example, like Singapore. They did two things majorly. One is they say zero tolerance to corruption, period. It meant that every shilling of Singapore counted, that every shilling went where it's supposed to be. Number two is they had a very well trusted public service.
Okay.
To the level that a public servant was actually trusted to deliver on a project, and they would do that. So those two major elements enabled the people of Singapore to be able to develop, and I think this is what we need to do as a country.
So how do we run out of this, Ms. Aidi?
Now look at a small incidents, for example. Recently, the PSST Minister of Finance fired almost 100 accounting officers of local government for not submitting their budgets on time, and everybody's up in arms. How can you do that? That is incompetence. You are defending incompetent people to remain serving you. And somebody is saying it's high time, these incompetent people, just submitting your budget in a time so that you can be able to implement your activities on time. You don't do that. At the end of the year, you return back money to treasury. And somebody says, no, you are still very good. You keep on like that. So for me, one is we overhaul the whole civil service system, okay, and throw it out there. Number two, we deal with corruption in procurement, because corruption in procurement is the one that is killing this government in terms of delivering services. Because a pen in one ministry, the same pen, same manufacturer, is being bought at different prices from different government agencies. And you wonder, do these agencies, are they in Uganda or are they in another planet? Same manufacturer, same supplier, same pen, same specifications, different prices. Not of minus 10%, no, more than 100%. Here you buy it at 1,000, the other one is going to buy it at 3,000. So those kind of disparities really make us lose money a lot.
Mr. Aidi, thank you for allowing to speak to us. We can connect the discussion further.
Definitely.
Well, so that is it for today. We have been digesting matters of the import taxes, of course, here in Uganda. That and more, of course, in another segment. My name is Fred Makubuya. This is Smart 24 TV, driving business.